morning the maid carried her sick baby into the glass tower. The city outside was still waking up, but something inside that building was about to change forever. Her arms trembled not from the weight of the child, but from fear. Fear of losing her job, fear of losing her baby, fear of a world that had never shown her much mercy. The baby's shallow breaths pressed against her chest as the elevator doors closed, sealing her fate between polished mirrors and silent judgment. She had no idea that by sunset, her quiet act of desperation would break the hardest heart in the building. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion to change lives, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel to support stories that remind us what humanity still looks like. Her name was Grace Thompson, a 31-year-old single mother living in a small basement apartment on the outskirts of Chicago, Illinois. Every morning before dawn, she rode 2 buses and a train to reach the downtown office of Harrison & Company, where she worked as a cleaner. The job paid little, but it paid on time, and that mattered when diapers, rent, and medical bills were stacked like an impossible wall. Her baby boy, Noah, was only 8 months old, born prematurely and fragile since his first breath. That morning, his fever had burned through the night, his cries weak and hoarse. The babysitter had canceled at the last minute. The clinic had no open appointments, and missing work meant losing the only income keeping them afloat. So Grace did the unthinkable. She wrapped Noah in a faded blue blanket, pressed a kiss to his damp forehead, and brought him to work. The building itself was a monument to wealth and control, all steel and glass rising above the street like a promise made only to a few. Inside, the floors gleamed, the air smelled faintly of lemon and money, and every step Grace took echoed with the reminder that she did not belong. She kept Noah hidden in a supply closet on the executive floor, placing him gently inside a laundry cart padded with towels, whispering prayers with every breath. Between wiping desks and emptying trash bins, she checked on him, her heart pounding louder than the vacuum cleaner she pushed down endless hallways. The man who owned the building, Michael Whitaker, was known to everyone and understood by no one. At 45, he had built his empire after losing his wife and newborn daughter in a tragic accident years earlier. Since then, his heart had hardened into something sharp and distant. He lived alone in a penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan, surrounded by success but hollowed by grief. Employees feared him, executives admired him, and no one dared bring personal problems into his perfectly ordered world. That morning, Michael arrived earlier than usual. Sleep had escaped him again, haunted by dreams of hospital lights and silence. As he walked through the executive floor, something unusual caught his attention. A sound, soft, fragile, a baby's cough, followed by a whimper that seemed to echo inside his chest. He followed it, each step pulling memories he had buried deep beneath years of control. When he reached the supply closet, the door slightly ajar, he saw Grace kneeling beside the cart, tears falling onto the blanket as she pressed her hand against Noah's tiny chest. Her uniform was wrinkled, her hair pulled back hastily, her eyes red from exhaustion and fear. She looked up and froze, the color draining from her face as she realized who stood before her. Grace's mind raced with apologies she could not speak, with the knowledge that this was the end of her job, maybe worse. She held Noah closer, instinctively shielding him from judgment. Michael stood still, his breath caught somewhere between anger and something else he could not name. The sight before him cracked a door he had kept sealed for years. The babies labored, breathing, the mother's quiet desperation, the unmistakable echo of a pain he knew too well. Instead of turning away, Michael stepped closer. He saw not a rule broken, but a mother cornered by a world that left no room for mercy. The executive floor, usually so sterile and cold, suddenly felt painfully human. He noticed how thin Grace's arms were, how the baby's cheeks were flushed with fever, how the blanket had been washed too many times to hide its age. Within minutes, the entire rhythm of the day changed. Michael ordered his driver to bring the car around and personally escorted Grace and Noah out of the building. Employees watched in stunned silence as the feared billionaire carried the laundry cart like it was something precious. Traffic parted as they rushed to a private hospital downtown, one Michael had funded years ago but never visited since its opening. Doctors moved quickly, diagnosing Noah with a severe respiratory infection that could have turned fatal within hours. Grace sat trembling in the waiting room, guilt gnawing at her chest, convinced she had risked her baby's life by choosing work over care. Michael sat across from her, hands clasped, staring at the floor as memories flooded back. His wife in a hospital bed, the beeping machines, the moment he had been told there was nothing more to do. When the doctor finally came out with good news, that Noah would recover with proper treatment, something inside Michael broke free. He felt tears he had not allowed himself in years burn down his face. Grace wept openly, relief collapsing her into herself as months of fear poured out in sobs she could no longer contain. What followed spread through the building like a quiet miracle. Michael paid for all of Noah's medical care, not as charity, but as responsibility. He arranged a paid leave for Grace, increased her salary, and offered her a new role with flexible hours and childcare support. More than that, he started a program within his company to support struggling parents, something that would change hundreds of lives in the years to come. Grace returned to work weeks later, stronger, steadier, Noah healthy and smiling in her arms. The building no longer felt like an enemy. It felt like the place where her life had bent instead of broken. Michael, changed in ways no one could quite explain, walked the halls differently now, seeing people instead of positions, pain instead of inconvenience. If this story is touching your heart, if you feel that ache in your chest that reminds you we are all more connected than we think, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you love, and subscribe so these stories of hope can reach more souls. Before the ending, we have one special request. Please comment below with a word or sentence about what kindness means to you, because your voice matters more than you know. On one quiet afternoon, months later, Michael stood by the office window watching Grace push Noah's stroller across the lobby, sunlight spilling over them like a blessing. For the first time since his loss, he did not turn away from the memory of what he had lost. Instead, he honored it by protecting what remained in the world. And in that simple act of choosing compassion over control, a maid saved a millionaire, a baby saved a broken man, and an ordinary day became a reminder that love still finds a way.